Hello, everybody. My name is Nathan Eason with the University of Georgia Extension. I monthly help host the ASEV Eastern Section Hang Time Grapevines to Wine webinar series. This is a place where we can kind of come together as an industry across the country and discuss relevant topics, just kind of have informal discussion and Q&A times. This month, we are going to use this opportunity to kind of promote our upcoming conference in Cleveland, Ohio. If you are not familiar with ASEV Eastern Section, this is a great opportunity to get engaged and get plugged in. I want to share a couple of resources here. And my screen is being blocked by my toolbar. There we go. So you can go to the ASEVEasternsection.org webpage, and you can also find information about our conference here. Our conference this year is July 9th through 11th. Again, in Cleveland, Ohio, we have a hotel that we're encouraging people to stay at, got room rates, and so it has a kind of an informal schedule right there, which will be posted a little bit more in detail. On the same webpage, if you're unsure about membership, you can go here and check out a little bit more about what we do. Again, we are the Eastern Section, which kind of means that a lot of east of the California is our territory. So the Eastern Section, as you can see here in dark purple, is a large portion of the nation going up into Canadian provinces. So we're glad you could join us. And if you don't catch us right now, hopefully you're viewing us on a recording. So I'm going to let our panelists here this morning introduce themselves. Dr. Steiner, we'll start with you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nathan. Good to be here. Good to be on the Hang Time webinar here, and appreciate Nathan for all his efforts on that. My name's Todd Steiner. I'm the Enology Program Manager and Outreach Specialist for Ohio State and in our industry, wine industry in Ohio. And I've been involved about 28, 29 years in the industry, and about going on 30, almost 35 at the university. And I'll let Maria introduce herself, and then we'll start our little presentation for you.
Hi, I'm Maria Smith. I'm Todd's viticulture colleague and outreach specialist with Ohio State University. I've been with ASEV as an organization for about 10 years. I started as a student in 2014 at Penn State, and then have been with the organization since, and joined as a professional in 2018 when I joined OSU. That's how long I've been here. So yeah, I'm also very happy to be here and to highlight and talk about all the great things that are going to be going on in Cleveland this summer.
And real quickly, I'll let Renee and Ode introduce themselves real quick, being how they're on our panel today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Renee Thrallfall. I'm the administrator for ASEV Eastern Section, and I'm a research scientist at the University of Arkansas doing grape and wine research.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aude Watrelot. I'm an assistant professor and extension specialist of enology at Iowa State University, and I'm the chair-elect of ASEV Eastern Section, and I have been a board member for 3 years now, I think.
Well, we appreciate all of y'all joining us. And again, for today's purpose, we just want to see Todd and Marie are going to give us an introduction to Ohio, what you can expect when you come to the conference. And after they kind of go through their little presentation, we've got a couple of more resources that we can give to you. That is all the abstracts and some of the talks and presentations that you can expect. So if you say, I still don't know what to expect at these conferences, these abstract outlines will give you a great picture of the things that will be shared and learned at this conference. So I will get that to you. I did post it in the chat box. If you scroll up, it comes in as an attachment PDF. And if you don't receive that or need to get that information again, I've just posted my email. Feel free to reach out to me to get that information. All right, Todd, without further ado, I'll let you start sharing your screen and yeah, let's give us a rundown on what we can expect.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nathan. And Maria and I kind of did a collaborative one here, so we don't have to switch screens all the time. So I might be telling her when I'm ready for the next slide. So yeah, so again, it's an honor to be here and present with you guys, and we're excited about the upcoming conference in Cleveland this summer. We last had it back in 2009, I believe, in Painesville. So it's been a while, and it's going to be good to showcase some of the advances in viticulture and enology, or on the wine industry side that we've gone through, and I hope it'll help. I think Renee and some of the other board members in the past as well have tried to have been pushing us to help get this back into Ohio, and I think it's great that it is, and we're pretty excited. Just to start off, though, I just was going to have a couple slides on a little bit of history of the overview of the Ohio grape and wine industry, as well as one slide, I think, on stats, and then we'll get into the program a little bit and discuss some of that. So really, we are one of the longer running grape and wine industries in the country. And it all started with, our pioneer in the Ohio grape and wine industry, Nicholas Longworth, who really helped establish a lot of industries throughout the U.S. At that time. And it was really near the Cincinnati area. So he was famous for, or infamous for, his catawba production down in that area, especially focusing on larger volumes of sparkling catawba, and also still wine or catawba made that way, but other varieties that were common at that time to the area also. Again, we're one of the largest and first commercial wine, grape and wine industries in the U.S. at that time. So, however, disease hit the vines along with reduction in both the vineyard and the winery of labor due to the Civil War, and then the Prohibition time, as we all know, that really was the demise of our industry, as well as mostly everybody else. At least that was legal anyway. And but we did see a post-Prohibition resurgence, and this really came up near the Lake Erie region. So taking the fact of the buffering effect that Lake Erie can offer, and the nice cool climate viticulture that we can in enology that we can do up there. So we'll go ahead to the next slide. And really a turning point did occur in the 60s with a lot of introduction of French American hybrids at the time. So some of those older ones that we might be familiar with, Saval and Foch and Chancellor, and some of those real older ones. And also at OSU, that was about the start of involvement in the early 60s, maybe just before that too, with Dr. Garth Cahoon, Dr. Jim Galander. They were also vital with the Eastern section and quite involved with that, along with other esteemed colleagues from other universities. Also, Dave Free, Dr. Roland Reason, myself throughout that number of years, kind of vital in helping our grape and wine industry through research and extension and introduction to these hybrids and how to make them. Were kind of vital to help put us on the path where we needed to go as an industry. We continue that effort today in developing an effective and efficient research program under Dr. Ahmed Damey, Maria Smith, as you know, on the outreach side. And then we have other colleagues in plant pathology, entomology, pathology, virology that really add to a good program and benefit our commercial grape and wine industry and beyond. So next slide. So we have about 5 appellations, or we have 5 appellations currently in Ohio, and that doesn't really include Ohio, which we can use since it has a definite boundary. Lake Erie, Isle St. George, Grand River Valley, Ohio River Valley, and Laramie Creek. And this is just to show you a slide of Ohio and where those AVAs are. So I think you can probably see my cursor, I'm hoping. Up along the Lake Erie, the entire Lake Erie region, where we have that AVA, and that extends actually, as we know, through Pennsylvania and New York. And then a unique AVA is the Isle of St. George, and that's actually North Bass Island. So that's real close to the Canadian border. So that really has some benefits, obviously, of a lake effect because you're surrounded by the water. There's some challenges with that too. But and then we have some more kind of sub-appellations in Northeast Ohio, where we're actually going to be going on the tour focusing there, the Grand River Valley. And then down south, we have all along the Ohio River Valley, we take effect of the benefit of the Ohio River and some of the soils and terroir conditions down there. And we have a little more heat degree days there, a little more length of season. So it's a little more feasible to do some of the reds with further maturities like Cab Franc, Cab Sauvignon, even on the right years. And where we might have be a little bit too warm for, say, Pinot Gris that we do up in the Northeast, or Pinot Noir, or some other whites that might be a little bit more cooked when it gets down there. Then we have a small AVA, Laramie Creek, that you can probably barely see. So that one was developed as well. And then we have some pending ones that we mentioned. One is Conneaut Creek. And so that's currently pending. It's going through that process. And the other one is the Ohio or Hocking River Valley. So that's down, includes kind of Lancaster and down below. It's kind of the start of the Appalachian foothills. So it's a unique thing there, and we're excited about those two potentially joining us. So, okay, the next slide then. And as far as just a couple things on stats, we rank 7th in wine production nationally and economic effort, according to TTB in their 2023 annual statistics. Now, that's not what we sell every year, because we do have some wineries, and one quite large one that does a lot of bulk wine. So they sell it in the state, but also a lot of bulk wine out of the state. So, so a little bit less than 6 million gallons roughly is what we're producing. We have what the Ohio Grape Industries Committee, which we're pleased to collaborate with. It's housed in the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and they do receive kind of an excise tax or incentive tax, 5 cents per gallon. So that's all wines that are sold in Ohio. That could be out of state, out of the country. So they receive that. It generates roughly about 1.25 million annually for research, extension, and marketing. So again, we have a good collaboration with them and Ohio State. So we can, write proposals to them, and then that gets disseminated upon board approval for research extension projects. They also do a great job in marketing of our wineries down there. Also, it's not mentioned here, but the Ohio Wine Producers Association, and then a lot of us know Daniela Winchell. She's kind of in charge of that, and is known a lot across the U.S. And her high vitality and efforts there in legislative and also marketing for the wineries that pay the association dues. So, but our market share is right around 7% of all the wines that's sold in Ohio. So that, for that's pretty good for us. We're slowly increasing that over time. Ohio's a pretty big state as far as population. I think it's roughly 12 million or somewhere in that range, a little over. But the wine related tourism, so that comes out of visiting wineries and vineyards, and all that's accounted for in that is thought to have an expenditure roughly around 790 million. So, pretty significant. Where a study by John Dunham and Associates that OGIC initiated would say they determined the full economic impact of the wine and grape in Ohio's economy is 3.8 billion. So that's really a good part of our economy. It's really strong. Now that would include also juice, jams, jellies as well. So, that includes Smucker's, which is headquarters here in Ohio, and some other juice and jam companies also. So with that, we'll go to the next one just to show you a little bit on our growth. Now, everybody, seems to be growing across the state. So we all are seeing that. But, now we would have about 430 what we call A2 or A2F permits, which classifies our wineries as production wineries. So the A2 permits doesn't necessarily mean they have to have an associated vineyard. with them. So A2F is something fairly new we've established that requires them to have some form of a vineyard or a state vineyard. And we hope that we continue to work with that there's more tax incentives or some kind of breaks because of the importance of that permit that will help those people that go to that effort to grow those grapes to make that quality wine. So, but yeah, 430 wineries right now are A2 permits, whereas we're up about 17% from 2021, where we had 368 wineries, and 62 from 2016, sorry, with 265 wineries. So a lot of growth. Just kind of a side note, when I started in 96, we had about 40 wineries. So I've seen a lot of growth over this time, but more importantly, I've seen growth in quality, both in the vineyard and especially the winery, and consistency. And for me, that quality and consistency is really, what I want to see. And I know a lot of us colleagues here at other states like that as well, within their state. So our size, still relatively small, a lot of family owned operations, but we range anywhere from 1,000 to well over 1 million or a couple million gallons in a particular winery. But our average is really roughly about 5,000 to 8,000 gallons. So fairly small yet, but nice, good boutique family style wineries. We have several wineries or a number over that 100,000 gallon or 42 to 50,000 case wineries. On the vineyard side, I think from the last numbers I've seen from OSU Viticulture Program was around 2,000 acres. It does seem like that is continuing to grow a little bit. And a big part of that is due to the Vineyard Expansion Program, which is through Ohio Grape Industries Committee and collaboration with our OSU Viticulture Program, where they're helping offset some of the costs to establish increased vines in the ground to help answer a lot of this growth in wineries. So good collaboration between our OGIC and Ohio State Viticulture Program. So, okay, with that, next slide. Yeah.
So I just wanted to add a couple of more points to that acreage.
Sure.
So historically, a lot of our grape production and acreage was in Concord, and that has been declining over time. But our wine grape acreage especially has actually been increasing. So even though it looks like our total number of acreage is down, it's mostly due to juice and processing grape acreage decline, not wine grapes. So I did want to make that distinction.
That's a good point. Yep.
Todd, and I don't want to interject, for some of us states that are, 15, 20 years behind what y'all are doing, it's a great model for seeing how y'all are organized. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. And like you said, just your collaboration and unity in the industry seems pretty strong over there.
Yeah, we always try to increase that. We try to do that especially through a good extension effort. So, that comes both on the viticulture and enology side, and try to promote that as much as we can. There's room to grow on that. There's more room as far as the winery side to get our winemakers together more, even without our efforts to form those groups, tasting groups, to say, where are we on wine quality as a group or a region or AVA, and how can we further improve? And that would go for marketing too. So there's always room for improvement. We try to do what we can. We have a pretty good annual conference. I think we're about a little over 300 on attendees, and with trade show we're 380 or something like that. So that's a good aspect too that we see. So
yeah, absolutely.
So yep.
All right.
Next.
So I'm going to take over from Todd and talk a little bit more about the program that we've been working collectively at OSU to help develop. And I'm going to start with Tuesday, July 9th. So just in case we haven't said it yet, this conference will be held Tuesday, July 9th through Thursday, July 11th. And this will be held at the Crown Plaza Playhouse Square in downtown Cleveland. The first day of the program is a separate industry tour that you do have to register for in addition to the conference itself. But we're trying to do something a little bit different this year. So it is going to be a longer tour, and we're going to a couple of different areas within Northeast Ohio. But Todd and I both think that this is really important to showcase. And we put this tour together specifically to really highlight the changes that have happened within our industry in Northeast Ohio since the conference was last held here in 2009. So we've selected and identified 4 locations to go to. We're going to Gervasi Vineyard Resort and Spa in Canton, Ohio. I guess it's technically North Canton. Bocce Winery in Madison, Ohio, Kasichik Vineyards in Geneva, Ohio, and Ferrante Winery and Restaurant in Geneva, Ohio. And Madison and Geneva are basically like a couple of miles apart, but the stops 2 through 4 will be in the Grand River Valley sub-AVA of Lake Erie up in far Northeast Ohio. And then Wednesday, July 10th and Thursday, July 11th is going to be our technical presentations, as well as some fun networking events with the Ena Olympics and Wines of the East reception, as well as the Grand Awards reception and banquet on Thursday. Thursday will also include an afternoon of our industry workshop, which I'll go through after we go through the tour stops over the next few slides. And I don't know, so I was a student, I participated in Olympics. Olympics is a wild amount of fun. It's really zany and stuff gets really weird. So I highly encourage students to participate with it. It's a really fun way to bond with who your future colleagues are going to be. And I still, funny enough, still have my little red newt cork hanging from our hall closet door to this day. And so that is a lot of fun. I don't know if Ode or Renee, you guys want to talk any more about the program side of things, but with the abstracts and presentations and posters, or either of the events. But it's a great technical program. I've learned a lot from it over the years. I continue to learn a lot from it. And we tend to present them in a way that are very approachable for industry members. So you don't need to necessarily know everything about the technical side of things. So much of the information is explained in a very, very good, basic, understandable way.
And I just want to say that, you know, for the folks who aren't in academia, you know, when it says student presentations, don't undervalue those presentations. Those are connected to a research specialist, and they are well educated in those specific areas. So anyway, I just, you know, I could see where someone might look at that. Oh, I'm going to skip the student stuff and just go to the technical sessions. But I encourage you not to. Those student talks, and they're excited to share their posters or their flash talks and talk to them about what they're doing, because that is the current research that is happening. So anyway.
Yeah, and also we have to remember that those students become folks like myself and folks like Drew Harner, who's now the new viticulture assistant professor at Virginia Tech. Like Justin was a student at Cornell who became the viticulture specialist at Texas A&M. So oftentimes a lot of these students do become the future of our academic program. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind with that as well. And honestly, we all know that like students do a lot of the moving the needle forward as far as our research programs anyway. So yeah, those will be Wednesday and Thursday. And then I just wanted to go through a little bit more about, Todd mentioned we have about 430 wineries. And so I wanted to show a map that shows the distribution of those wineries across the state. So unlike Texas last year, Ohio, you could probably fit like 5 Ohios in the state of Texas. We are not a big state, but we're not a terribly small state either. We're based here in Worcester, Ohio, up sort of northeast. But we have wineries that span across the entire state. And from Worcester, we can get anywhere within the state within about 3 hours or, you know, a couple hundred miles. So Ohio itself as a state is not terribly big, but where we're going and where we're going to be. So we're going to be in Cleveland for the conference itself, and then we'll be traveling up in this Northeast Ohio quadrant. One thing that wasn't mentioned earlier too is that out of that 2,000 acres of wine grapes, the overwhelming majority of those are produced within Northeast Ohio, in part because it has one of the best climates, especially cool climates, to be growing a lot of grapes. And that lake effect does a tremendous job in buffering our winter temperatures, which can be a huge limiting factor to grape production, as well as helping to push back bud break for spring frost events. So like a lot of the eastern US, we did have a major freeze event a couple of weeks ago, and some of these more marginal sites that are not within the lake effect, especially on the west side of Cleveland, but also in central to just sort of southern Ohio and western Ohio. And our early bud break varieties had quite a bit of damage. So that lake that buffers that temperature and the bud break that was just a little bit later actually helped avoid quite a bit of damage up in that region. So that's a big reason for that. And then also with cooler and more moderated temperatures, we tend to see a lot less disease. Of course, that's relative. We all see a lot of disease, and I'll go into that in a bit. But this is a really conducive area for grape production in Ohio. And so, of course, that's where a lot of our grapes are grown. So to go over some of the tour spots, the first is Gervasi Vineyard Resort and Spa. They're a 55-acre destination location, but are also very modern, very state-of-the-art in terms of their production facilities, and they've diversified quite a bit in their product portfolio. So they do obviously make a lot of wine, but they also have a new distillery facility that we are going to be touring as well. That's really cool. They also just built a brand new wine barrel cave on site. So we're going to do a full property tour, but then end up with a grazing lunch at they call it the cave, where we'll do our grazing lunch and wine tasting. So this is, to us, it's such a unique destination type location that we felt it warranted to include it in our tour, even though we're going to make like kind of a triangle from Cleveland down to North Canton and then up to the Ashtabula County area. But a very cool place, and we definitely look forward to taking you there. The second stop is going to be Kasichik Vineyards. This is the third and now fourth with Emma Kasichik, Generation Family Farm Winery. So we wanted to give you some ideas of scale too about what sort of our vineyard and winery operations look like. So they run a 20-acre vineyard of largely vinifera and Concord, but they also do some Vidal Blanc. They make a number of award-winning wines, but they also have an interesting diversity of wine styles that they produce as well. So they do still wines. They've started recently making sparkling wines, and we can highlight those during the tour, as well as ice wines. And so the other thing I forgot to note about Northeast Ohio is it's cold over winter. If that lake freezes, winter temperatures can get quite low. And we get low enough every single year to be able to have consistent ice wine production. So Kasichik's is really unique, and not only that they obviously make ice wine, but they make Concord ice wine. And that is not a product that you necessarily find everywhere. So they make some really interesting wines, make some very good wines, and we are very excited to showcase them as our family farm winery. We'll also, on our third stop, be visiting Bocce Winery, which is, if you were here in 2009, I'm not sure if it was mentioned or talked about, but it is the former St. Joseph's Vineyard. St. Joseph's was owned and operated by Art Petrick for, gosh, how long, Todd? Like 30 years?
Yeah, likely. And I believe we did, if I recall right, go to there on that tour. So
Okay.
They were doing some fine wines at the time. So
yeah, and it was an interesting vineyard because I would consider it more of an experimental vineyard. Art did a lot of boundary pushing with the types of varieties that he could grow. So he was one of the initial sites to have planted varieties like Saperavi. That still exists on that property today, but he also grew a lot of what we would consider the conventional cool climate vinifera as well, like Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris, Chardonnay. And those are really some highlight varieties for this region, are those cool climate varieties. But the St. Joseph's Vineyard was purchased by new owners in 2021. So we really wanted to highlight sort of the expansion and forward movement of a number of these historic properties within Northeast Ohio. And Bocce was a great example of that. They've been doing an extensive amount of tasting room, winery expansion, and modernization, as well as vineyard expansion. So I believe they're planting 5 to 10 new acres this year as well. And so we'll be meeting with their vineyard manager, operations manager, and winemaker for there to talk about some of the ways that they have been moving the site forward. And then our last stop is going to once again incorporate a very historical vineyard and winery, but also represent one of our largest vineyard and wineries that are still continuously operating in Northeast Ohio. Once again, it's a multi-generational family-run business now with, can't remember if it's Nick's nephew, Dominic, is coming up in their assistant winemaker, Nick Ferrante. So they're also very multi-generational. And they run a 40-acre vineyard, largely a vinifera, but also they grow Vidal Blanc for ice wine as well. Again, they're one of our largest facilities at 120,000 gallons of wine produced annually. And so with them, we'll be doing a vineyard and winery tour, at a wine tasting, as well as dinner at their restaurant. So that really wraps up our tour. I'm very much looking forward to it. These are folks that Todd and I have worked with for a number of years now, and are, you know, again, we talk about the collaboration within our industry and between our industry and OSU, and I think this will help highlight that even further. So now I'm going to move on to the Thursday workshop and sort of how we developed that concept. You know, I was reading through the proceedings over the past several years, and I was like, man, all these are fantastic, very topic driven, very timely, but almost all of them were abiotic and climate related. And so in thinking about our workshop concept and sort of what our industry and grower needs and asks tend to be, as well as winemakers, and a lot of it comes down to climate first, of course. You know, again, we do have cold winters, so winter injury is a huge limiting factor. We are now seeing more accelerated bud break and spring frost as a result of climate change being a big issue. But also these shifts in patterns of precipitation are right behind that. And so disease management is a huge topic of concern for our industry, not just from the disease management point, because we know that impacts the grapes themselves, but also in the winery, as a number of wineries are wanting to move towards more like low input winery production practices. But you know, that's really hard to do when we get over 20 to nearly 30 inches of precipitation each season. And this is just a map showing the distribution of that across the state from April 1st to October 31st, or during our growing season. And that means we get pretty much every disease under the sun here. And that applies equally throughout a lot of the eastern United States, especially sort of the Southeast. And I know you guys in Georgia are even worse than us when it comes to precipitation. And that can be everything from early season diseases like black rot to late season cluster rots like sour rot and botrytis down here. But some of the big pressing issues for us with having to manage these diseases, at least on the viticulture side, are going to be fungicide resistance. That's becoming a huge issue. It's not just for powdery mildew, which obviously is a problem, but really for us, it's downy mildew, which is not a true fungus. It's an oomycete, but we have very limited selection of fungicides that control it, and a number of those are becoming disease resistant. So that to me was a huge motivator for trying to create a workshop surrounding this topic. So we titled it Small Organisms, Big Impacts, Exploring the Role of Microbes in Vineyard and Winery Management, because of course, again, it impacts yield, but it also impacts winemaking, production, and wine quality. And so we really tried to generate a program that would span the spectrum from grapes to wine and pretty much every step in between, and how that impacts our production. So again, minimizing fungicide resistance, that's going to be a presentation from Dr. Phil Brandon at the University of Georgia. Dr. Drew Harner at Virginia Tech, who's been doing a lot of work with spotted lanternfly as a grad student and postdoc at Penn State, is continuing that at Virginia Tech now that spotted lanternfly is distributed quite widely. And we have it in, I believe, 13 counties in the state of Ohio right now. Although, thankfully, we have not found one yet in one of our commercial vineyards. So that is a plus, but we know it's coming. And so we want to be prepared for it. And so a big aspect, obviously, is its speeding, but also, you know, spotted lanternfly is a leafhopper, and we know that leafhoppers do transmit grape diseases. So he's going to be highlighting feeding patterns of spotted lanternfly and spotted lanternfly disease transmittance. And then I'm going to pass this over to Todd to talk a little bit more about the wine side.
All right, thanks, Maria. Yeah, just to continue this, you know, it's something Maria and I thought when we got together about what's important for our industry, and really a lot of us in the Eastern section, we thought this was a good key area. And to continue that topic, we're really fortunate to have Dr. James Osborne in from Oregon State, who's well renowned for wine microbiology. Great job in extension on his part also. So he's going to touch base on identifying undesirable microbes at harvest, crush, and wine aging. He's also going to touch on how to how to kind of prevent these and how to monitor. So, and that might be a bigger area. Well, how do you monitor these organisms? How do you know if you have issues, and how do you go about doing that? So, also we're fortunate and pleased, as we all know, Dr. Anna Catherine Mansfield from Cornell. She's going to be talking about spontaneous ferments, kind of the variability of microbial terroir and aroma flavor compounds of non-Saccharomyces yeast. We're starting to hear a little bit more about that here lately, and also we're hopeful that it will include a tasting as well. So that's always educational to have a tasting that would coincide with that. So, and last but not least, certainly we're glad to have Katie Cook with us from Scott Laboratories. She was, I guess, in her first initial stages, she was up at the University of Minnesota. And now she's doing a great job at Scott Laboratories. So she's going to be talking about a relatively new area, but it comes with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of excitement across the Eastern section. And I would say really across the country, kind of on bioprotection strategies. And this would be, at harvest, during wine production. So, I think with all these keynotes that we have on board with or featured speakers for the workshop, I think it's going to provide a well-rounded workshop, and not only just for industry, which we hope we have a lot of good industry attendance and take advantage of all the expertise here, but really for all of us in academia. So whether it's research or extension, and we can all benefit from others and what they're doing. So we're looking forward to a good workshop. So with that, unless there's any other questions at this time, we're going to cover a little bit about some attractions and what else could further bring you to Cleveland and Ohio. And so Maria put together this neat little thing
video
about LeBron. So yeah, go ahead and play that, Maria, and then I'll cover a couple things.
Yeah, so Todd and I could sell you on Cleveland, or we could have LeBron James, world famous athlete from Akron, Ohio, sell you on all the merits of Northeast Ohio.
You have to take a risk.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You have to. It's like when I decided to go back to Cleveland, Portland told me short ass would welcome me back, man. But they did. They welcomed me back with open arms and an open heart.
Yeah, they did. Again, I feel like that applies more to you. I don't even live in Cleveland, but again, I appreciate the thought.
Cleveland, Ohio? It's called the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Or maybe we go down to Canton to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know Superman was created in Cleveland?
Yeah, no, I know Superman was created in Cleveland. You've told me that a number of times.
You ever see Cuyahoga Sunset?
No.
Do you know Cleveland's great for the whole family?
Yes, I do. You tell me that all the time. You randomly just text me that.
I was called that weird.
It's weird.
I got free texting.
Why are you trying to always sell me on Cleveland?
When are you going to come to Cleveland?
I'll come when I have the time. I just don't have the time right now. I'll come when I have the time. I've just been really busy.
You visit me in Miami all the time.
Yeah, but that's Miami.
What's the difference between Miami and Cleveland? It's the same.
You're right, it's the same.
Exactly.
So there's a lot that's going on in Cleveland. And it's obviously been very much a featured city in a number of pop culture movie and television references. So that movie first came out when I moved to Cleveland, and I was like, oh, great. I'm glad LeBron could sell me on coming to this fantastic former major industrial city. So Todd, if you want to kick us off with some of the attractions that are in Cleveland.
To carry on with LeBron's thinking, and hopefully, you might have the opportunity to come early or extend late. As a matter of fact, in 2009, I actually did provide an opportunity for those to come early to enjoy. At that time, we're at Quail Hollow. It had a famous golf place to either tee up on the golf course, which there's plenty of golf courses, or I provided some fishing excitement and some charter opportunities for people too. So, but if you can, certainly, as LeBron mentioned, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think everybody's heard of that. You know, it's really only located in Cleveland or New York. And I think this year they're having the inductees in Cleveland this year. So it is a really unique facility. It's the engineering of that building is incredible. A lot to learn. I know I only first visited there probably 5 years ago, which was terrible, but it's absolutely wonderful to see, and you can learn a lot. And then the Great Lakes Science Center, which is next to it, that actually is next to the Hall of Fame would be north of our hotel on the lake shore. It's really neat science center with lots to do, lots to learn from. They did a lot during the past eclipse, and they had big turnouts there. And then on our tour, we're heading down to Gervasi, which is a unique facility, as Maria mentioned. But that's where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is in Canton. And if you're a football fan, it's a must see. So the campus keeps increasing in size, and it's an unbelievable experience. So and just to see the stadium that's associated with the Pro Football Hall of Fame game, and actually they're kind enough to have it's a high school stadium that they've helped with there too. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. And Playhouse Square is infamous as far as musicals and plays and other events that they have, and it's actually going to be right across from our hotel. It is right up there with New York City from what I understand. So it is unbelievable, and the cast of musicals that they get in there, and it's really something else. I have not been there, but for those that are looking into that or that enjoy that type of atmosphere, I'm sure you will not be disappointed. Hopefully there'd be something in and around our conference that you could find there. My passion is baseball, so the Guardians and Progressive Field is an unbelievable place to go. The Guardians are currently in first in a tough Central Division, and so if you can come early or stay late and catch a Guardians game, the field is really neat, and they're currently going through some updates as well there. So it'd be good to attend. The Cleveland Museum of Art's one of the best museums of arts across the country. And if I recall right, those that want to increase the cultural side of things, their experience, I think they're going to have a number of Monet paintings there through the time that we're at the conference. So that could be really entertaining and cultural for those that want to view that. So next slide. Yeah, and it's free. I enjoy beer on the opposite side of wine. So when we judge wine all day, we always like to go to beer afterward. So and Ohio has a lot of breweries and craft breweries. One of my favorites is Great Lakes Brewery. It's located in Cleveland. They do a great job. They have a lot of wine or quality accolades associated to them. The Flats is another one, which is going to be west of our hotel, down along the banks of the Cuyahoga where it enters Lake Erie. It's a tremendous area for boating, for restaurants, bars, nightclubs, the aquariums down there. Lots of building with condos and hotels. It's really a neat place to go. And then I would be remiss if I didn't include the opportunity for world famous Lake Erie walleye fishing. So if you can take advantage of that, if you enjoy fishing, there's charter boats all over the lake from one end to the other of the state line. And you might have a chance to catch a trophy of a lifetime. This strange fella here in this picture actually caught a 33.5-inch walleye, and there's opportunities to catch trophy of a lifetime. And if somebody's looking for it, I can suggest some charters too. So with that, I'll let Maria take it from there.
So Todd mentioned breweries, and I figured I'd put up a pinpoint map of where they're all located in downtown Cleveland. We have a lot of them, and the chicken wings, especially at Noble Beast Brewing, are fantastic. So I do recommend. In this map, we're actually staying right here in Playhouse Square. So you'll have a lot of access to the surrounding downtown scene. And believe it or not, Cleveland is a huge foodie town. There are a lot of ethnic populations that are within Cleveland, especially as immigrants come to the United States, they tend to spread out, and Cleveland is a major landing point for a lot of them. I say Italian, and I mean it because, believe it or not, Cleveland has the second largest Little Italy outside of New York City. And because of that, in University Circle area, right next to Severance Hall and the Cleveland Museum of Art, is where that neighborhood is located, and it is still pumped full of fantastic little Italian joints. We also have a very large Slavic, Eastern European immigrant population as well. So, names like Kasichik, that should cue you off as being Eastern European in origin. A lot of them had historically settled in Northeast Ohio in the 1800s for job opportunities with industry and manufacturing in Cleveland. And today, actually, with the Ukraine war, Cleveland has become a fairly major immigration spot for Ukrainians. And so they brought their cuisine with them. So there's a lot of opportunity to try that. With the Cleveland Clinic, which is a world-class hospital system, we have a number of Southeast Asian and Indian immigrants, and they brought their cuisine with them as well. And of course, Latin American cuisine, there's quite a bit of, especially on the west side of Cleveland, closer to Lorain County. So there's a lot of opportunity for dining. And of course, if you just want some good old fashioned Midwest comfort food, we've got that too. So excellent eats, a lot of unique shopping experiences. So if you've never been to Cleveland, there is some really cool architecture in that city that was built in the 1800s. So a lot of Federalist style buildings, and also quite a bit of Art Deco as well. And I encourage you to take advantage of that. So right across the street from our hotel is Heinen's grocery store, which is a really cool little grocery store built into a rotunda. And one of the most unique grocery stores I've probably ever been into. And of course, we have the West Side Market, which has a lot of kiosks and stalls selling local food products as well. Ohio has a lot of urban agriculture, so a lot of that gets brought into places like West Side Market and farmers markets and whatnot. I'm a huge live music fan, so like Todd with the fishing, that's kind of more my scene. And there's a lot of live music in Cleveland, so I highly suggest looking into shows that you might be interested in during the conference week, or like during the conference itself, or before or after. Just some of the venues to highlight are the Agora Theater, Jacobs Pavilion, House of Blues is right next to where we're going to be staying. There's a lot of free music series as well throughout the summer, sponsored by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And interestingly, so Cleveland Orchestra has a summer residency at Blossom Music Center, which is about 20 minutes south of Cleveland, in a beautiful outdoor amphitheater. So if you get an opportunity to see any of those, I know War and Treaty was featured on an NBC Live Christmas special, but I actually saw them at a 20-person concert at the Grog Shop back in 2019. So you can catch a lot of really cool local live acts before they make it big too. And of course, like there's a ton of nature within Cleveland and outside of Cleveland. Edgewater Beach is just down the street from our hotel, which is the Lakeshore Park, and it's part of the Cleveland Metro Park system. Metro parks are pretty much a county-run parks program and park system. They purchase and preserve land in urban spaces. So there's a lot of them around the Cleveland metro area. The Botanical Garden is a big highlight. A big one not to miss is the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Again, about 20-30 minutes south of Cleveland, in between Cleveland and Akron. Has a lot of great hiking, a whole lot of mountain biking, and really great gorge type features like waterfalls. And then Menor Headland State Park, which is northeast, has a cool little lighthouse and beach as well. So a lot to see and a lot to do. And we highly recommend coming, staying the week, and being a tourist, in addition to getting some great viticulture and enology information. So that's all we got. And I think that leaves us with time for questions or input from the rest of the panel.
Y'all did not hold back. Y'all just pulled out all the stops, rolled out the red carpet. That was awesome. Thank you so much for a thorough, and this is great because again, everybody on this, needs to share this, that we have an ASE. All you have to do is go to Google, type in ASEV-ES YouTube, and it should take you to our YouTube page. I will do my best to get the link out to membership, but this can be a great promotion for our conference. Share it to industry members in your states, colleagues. We would love to have you there. We are trying to grow our participation at our conference with more industry members and engagement. Ode, would you like to say anything?
So just to come back on the Olympics and all the technical program and all the program of ASEV Eastern section, that's really a lot of fun. It's exactly what Maria, you explained. That's fun for the students to participate, but that's also fun for the other people in the room. And so I think ASEV Eastern section, that's a great conference just to have a great collaboration. That's a great way to discuss, to learn about other things happening in other states, to learn from other people, to develop more collaboration and more research and extension work. That's really a great conference. And that's a good way also for students just to learn about every other people and just helping them to grow and to become the next generation, the next leaders in viticulture, enology, marketing, all those areas. So please join.
That's what attracted me to ASEV Eastern Section, is just the friendliness, the fellowship. You know, did I mention we drink wine at this conference? That's very important because wouldn't make sense if we didn't. But we do have tasting sometimes with our technical speeches, but we do have a social time, and that's really unique because wines from across the country come, and folks that are uneducated in the enology side like myself get to stand next to folks like Todd, and he gets to explain what you're tasting. So it's great, and it's a lot of fun. Renee's our director coordinator of this. Renee, is there anything that you want to comment on?
No, I think they even made me want to go to Cleveland just to see all the other things. I mean, I knew I was excited about going, but now I really am with all the things that they mentioned. You know, we have a hospitality suite that we're going to have open 2 nights, and that's just one of the places it's really fun because this is where sometimes we bring some of our research wines, and that's where we really get to see, you know, some of the different personalities and to really spend one-on-one time with students. In that space, that's a much more casual environment where we just sit back and we're chatting and tasting wines and having snacks. So, but no, I do want to mention that we were able to obtain a USDA AFRI conference grant this year that is going to help fund this workshop, which is why our workshop is really focused on pests and beneficial species in ag production. And so we're delighted to come to Cleveland, and Maria and Todd and the team in Ohio have really laid out a great tour. You know, they mentioned the tour really quickly, but we don't always do a lunch and a dinner. So this is kind of a sponsored event. So for $100, you get a bus ride, you get a grazing lunch. There's going to be wine tasting, and then a beautiful dinner at a beautiful winery. So it's going to be a great day, and that's going to be limited seating. So when that sells out, it's sold out.
So all the costs can be found online, but it is $325 dollars for membership for the conference non-members. For membership, it's $225. The hotel rates, if you give them the name of the conference, should be $155 a night. So that's great rates for being in such a populated area. So thanks for working on that contract for us, Renee, and Marie and Todd, all the work that y'all are putting into this. We're hoping to have a great conference, and thank y'all so much for sharing. We can take some questions from the audience. I do want to refer that on reference the chat box. I did earlier on, if you scroll up, put in the PDFs. This is the abstract of the presenters. I guess that's poster, flash talks, and the sorts, technical talks. So you can kind of get a glimpse of what we will be covering.
I don't see those in the chat, Nathan.
All right.
Oh, maybe it's because you sent it out before we started the.
Oh, okay. I may not have been. Okay.
Do I need to do it again, do you think?
I would do it again. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me do that right quick. And I got it right here. So we have formatted abstracts, should be uploading now.
There it is.
And then I will throw up the email blast about the conference as
Yep.
well. So real quickly, if you want to download those, click on them, download them. And that way you have those as your resources. Again, please share this. I'll get the YouTube link out of this recording, share it to your constituents and friends, industry, and let's look forward to a great 2024 conference. With all of that, I will conclude this, and I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.